I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. Tonight, the nation is learning the president's plans for new controls on guns, and we are learning the recommendations of leading Catholics. In a letter to Congress, the bishops, priests, and sisters are calling for criminal checks on anyone wanting to buy a gun, bans on high-capacity weapons and ammo clips, and making trafficking in guns a federal crime. Led by Bishop Stephen Blair of the U.S. Bishops' Conference, the Catholics are joining with Protestant, Jewish, and Muslim clerics in drafting the proposals. At the White House, the president announced his gun controls, and there are even more executive orders than expected, a total of 23. Facing a fierce fight with Congress, the president is acting alone. The Associated Press puts the price tag for the president's plan at $500 million.
As soon as I'm finished speaking here, I will sit at that desk and I will sign a directive giving law enforcement, schools, mental health professionals, and the public health community some of the tools they need to help reduce gun violence.
Among the president's executive orders, several federal agencies are to gather data and get ready for background checks, which he's asking Congress to authorize. He's also asking Congress to ban assault weapons, but he's ordering the CDC to start digging into research on gun violence and come up with even more data. And he's promising to put 1,000 police officers in schools. Now, on their own, schools have added 10,000 armed guards since last month's Newtown, Connecticut school massacre. Reaction to today's speech, completely partisan. Proud that New York won a race to be the first to pass new gun controls, Governor Cuomo now has signed the legislation in Albany. It expands the state's ban on purchasing assault weapons. The governor put his pride into words.
I am proud to be part of this government, not just because New York has the first bill, but because New York has the best bill.
But tonight, a number of experts are questioning whether it is the best. The bill also requires health professionals to turn into authorities any mentally ill person deemed dangerous. Now, as we first reported last night, there are fears patient confidentiality could be at risk, and individuals in need of treatment, especially the homicidal, could shun the doctor's office. Well, while the gun debate rages, the NRA is reporting tonight a big jump in membership, up 250,000 more people in just the last month. The association now has more than 4 million on its rolls. We've also been reporting on other big jumps in gun sales and at gun shows. Right now, the world's largest show is underway in Las Vegas.
Whoa, my God.
Go big or stay home, as they say in Vegas.
Wow.
Yes, that is a chrome-plated, fully automatic 50 caliber machine gun, a one-of-a-kind weapon that can now be fired right on the Vegas Strip.
This is the place for the gun connoisseur.
Yes, we're going after a little bit of a higher-end demographic.
For gun lovers, it's the sort of thing dreams are made of. The world's most powerful handgun, the Smith & Wesson 500, is here too.
Look at this thing. My God.
So just make sure not to put your finger on the trigger or point at anyone.
The Strip Gun Club has only been open a month. Co-owner Justin Michaels is attending the SHOT Show now in town, hoping to find new sources of ammunition, now in short supply.
Why is there a shortage of ammunition?
It's because there are certain people have a fear that with the what they perceive to be upcoming gun legislation.
Rick Cass, an Indianapolis gun dealer, is also here for the SHOT Show. Like ammunition, he says gun owners are buying up AR-15s at about $2,000 a pop in record numbers.
80% of your business is AR-15s, and
Yes.
you cannot keep them in stock.
I cannot keep them in stock. We received 17 this week, and I sold them in 36 hours.
He also sold 2,100 high-capacity magazines in just 3 days, he says. All this the unintended consequence of talk of new gun laws. This is a place perfectly comfortable with guns. You can even go to the state-of-the-art Clark County Skeet Shooting Range opening this week. We got a sneak peek.
Pull.
Gun carts. Desert views, 30 manicured shooting stations. It is golf with guns. In Vegas, anything goes. Sport shooters and high-end gun ranges don't think the new gun laws will have much effect on them, but retailers and manufacturers of guns gathering here are watching, waiting, and worried.
Well, no worries at a gun show in Idaho. Sales are so hot, the organizer says some people can hardly walk because they've got so much stuff. Up next, a helicopter crashes into central London and a train crashes into an apartment building. Details as Currents continues after the break. Welcome back. 2 people are dead in London tonight after a helicopter crashed into the center of the city during rush hour. 13 more people on the ground were hurt, 1 critically. The pilot and 1 other person died. The helicopter fell to the ground after it hit a crane. At the time, a heavy fog hung over the city and visibility was poor. The police commander on the scene said it was something of a miracle. The crash wasn't many times worse. Thousands of pedestrians were in that area at the height of the morning rush. The crane that the helicopter hit was constructing the tallest apartment building in London. What remained of the boom dangled over the city and police evacuated the surrounding area. One eyewitness reported the helicopter was shaking violently before it hit the crane. In Sweden, a commuter train has crashed into an apartment building. A 20-year-old woman commandeered the train, which was otherwise empty, and drove it off the tracks and into the apartments located in a suburb outside Stockholm. Police said the woman was cleaning the train, but they don't know why she crashed it. She's in the hospital in serious condition. No one inside the building was hurt, although 3 families had to be rescued. Well, rescue for the families and so many others damaged by Hurricane Sandy may be a little closer tonight. Senate action is expected soon on a $50 billion bill to help those in our area recover from the storm. Last night in the House, and after much wrangling, came the final vote.
The yeas are 241 and the nays are 180. The bill is passed.
Senate approval and a presidential signature are still needed. 80 days have passed since Hurricane Sandy hit us. Very troubling and still developing news come from Algeria tonight. Al-Qaeda terrorists have attacked and seized a natural gas field. They're holding hostages, including Americans. The State Department is confirming that. Unconfirmed, the number of dead and the total number of hostages. Late reports are that 2 foreign nationals have died and more than 20 people are being held. The terrorists claim the attack is in retaliation for France's invasion of Mali. French troops landed in Mali over the weekend to stop Al-Qaeda rebels from seizing control of the country. French nationals are said to be among tonight's hostages. The Al-Qaeda-backed rebels in Syria have seized an important airbase in the north of the country. A major victory for them, but for the town next to the base, Taf Hanaz, there are no shouts of victory, only silence.
This is what life sounds like after the Syrian regime has punished a city. The silence of extinction.
Assalamu alaikum.
A people vanished, their homes and lives bombed away. This is what Syria faces when the bloodshed stops and it becomes time to rebuild. A regime airbase next to it, Taf Hanaz was cursed to be caught in the crossfire during a battle lasting several months to seize the launch pad for jets and helicopters across much of the north. This cameraman filmed what remained from outside its walls. The Islamist brigades who won, filming their victory. Yet still jets sought this week to hit rebels that remained. This substantial victory over regime air power not stopping a devastating onslaught nationwide. The town of Hula hit Tuesday, children killed by shelling. And then another massacre, blast striking Aleppo University. The regime blaming terrorists, activists saying rockets hit the building. Its dormitories full of the displaced, already bombed out of their homes. Freezing bad weather had prevented regime planes flying for some days, reducing casualties, but that was short-lived. Many asking, after Taf Hanaz, what blow will be large enough to slow the onslaught? Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Beirut.
U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta is in Rome tonight, and earlier today he met with Pope Benedict. Panetta is visiting NATO allies Italy, Spain, Portugal, and the United Kingdom. He attended the Holy Father's general audience and waited for the opportunity to speak with the pontiff. They chatted cordially for a short while, and then the Pope gave Panetta a gift. The defense secretary is a Catholic and previously met Pope John Paul II. Today was his first encounter with Benedict. Meantime, the Vatican has sent a sharp letter to European Court of Human Rights complaining that recent decisions are creating a dictatorship of relativism and endangering the Church's religious freedom. Now, earlier this month, I welcomed Bishop Athanasius Schneider to Brooklyn as he celebrated a traditional Latin Mass in our diocese. Tonight, he examines the threats to religious liberty as he contrasts revolutionary France and the communists of Soviet Union.
The discussion about religious liberty as the consequence of the document of Dignitatis Humanae of the Council, I think it is true to make the difference between the understanding of religious liberty in the 19th century and of this atheistic movement from the French Revolution, to make Catholic countries like France or Italy and so on not Catholic. And therefore the popes wanted to reject this form of religious liberty. The religious liberty in the 20th century, in the former Soviet Union, was another situation, because the society, all society was not Catholic and was even, I would say, atheistic, without God. And worse, religion itself was prohibited. And in this context, we have to understand the religious liberty from the point of view of how I can argue with a government who is atheistic or who is not believes in God. So I have to argue with them on the level of reason only, or philosophically, I would say, on the natural level. And so I cannot say them, oh, you have to accept the Catholic faith, because the Catholic faith is the only one true. Of course this is true, but they would not understand this, so I have to argue, give us religion, because this is a demand of the human dignity. And so what we have in common with an atheist is at least to save the human dignity, at least. Even so, atheism will destroy human dignity. But we have to speak with them at least on this level. And so I understand the intention of the Council, of the document.
As the 40th anniversary of the Supreme Court's abortion decision draws near, it falls next Tuesday, the U.S. bishops are calling for prayer, fasting, and pilgrimage in support of life. Now, earlier today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Brooklyn's Auxiliary Bishop Paul Sanchez and asked him how the faithful should follow his brother bishop's call.
Despite the fact that it may be true that there hasn't been much movement over 40 years in the public mentality, I think there's still a need to do what the bishops are encouraging us to do, and that is to pray and to fast and to do pilgrimage. And I say that because obviously, you know, we all remember what Mother Teresa said. It's not about being successful, it's about being faithful. And, you know, by praying and by fasting and doing pilgrimage for this cause, for life, we're being faithful to the mission that God calls us to. Prayer can do wonders. I mean, pilgrimage, what does it mean for a person living in their home? I think it means going to your local church. I'm currently in Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in Forest Hills. We're going to have a special Mass on January 22nd at noontime. And certainly every church throughout our diocese will have Mass at some time on that day or on the days that are designated as the 9 days of prayer. So I'd encourage you to find your local church, pray for this intention, and pray especially for those who, you know, will go to Washington, will walk on a winter day, sacrifice, to make a statement about this cause, which is, about the gift of life.
The March for Life, where hundreds of thousands are expected to gather in Washington in support of life, is set for next Friday, January 25th. Meantime, the Diocese of Brooklyn is announcing that St. Fidelis School in College Point, Queens will be closing in June. Declining enrollment and increasing costs are cited. Anne Kassane Engelhardt is a children's author and an enormously gifted illustrator, as you now will see for yourselves. Anne, thank you so much for being with us. We're here to talk about this absolutely amazing book. Hold it up for our audience to take a look at, our viewers. It's called Be Saints, and it's inspired by Pope Benedict XVI. Tell us a little bit about the message of the book.
The book is actually based on a talk that Pope Benedict had given to children when he visited England about 2 years ago. And he went really to beatify Cardinal John Henry Newman, but whenever he's traveling, he always finds time to meet with the youth and children. And it was basically, he invited them to be the saints of the 21st century. And he encouraged them to find true happiness by placing their hopes and their trust and their love in God.
We know, obviously, how much Pope Benedict embraces the children, and he encourages the youth through the church and the new evangelization. Were you able to kind of just tie what the content of the book is with the Pope's message, even as recently as this past year, and especially as we begin our year of faith?
Oh, absolutely. I think that a consistent message of Pope Benedict is that, as I said, we place our hope in God, and that's to really find true happiness, not the happiness that the world might tell us.
You brought some paintings with you. I'm sitting here mesmerized by them, and I'm like chomping at the bit for our viewers to see it. So please hold them up one by one and kind of just explain to us what we're seeing. Obviously, a painting of our Pope Benedict XVI.
Yeah, this is actually this is the final watercolor of the book. They're all done in watercolor, and you can see where the text would be placed over the background here. But I just tried very hard to get a likeness of him and to show that, that grandfatherly sort of gentle manner that he has.
And we talked a little bit about that. I was impressed that I believe you really did capture his essence. You captured that look that he gives that warms the heart and that is just really encouraging and embracing. I think you did a fantastic job. Let's see another painting, and I want you to tell us how long does it take you to actually complete one of these works?
Well, depending on the painting, anywhere from, they usually take a few weeks, like maybe 2 weeks, or there's a lot of preparation and drawing and research and things. So this is actually a painting of St. Mary's College in Twickenham, England, where the event actually took place.
Okay.
So this was just the end paper, and I just wanted to give it, kind of set the stage.
And I want to remind our viewers, these are the originals.
Yeah, these are the original watercolors, and you can see that because you can see my, testing color swatches on the side. And
how authentic the stained glass! It's remarkable. How long did that take you?
Probably about 2 weeks, I would say, to work on it.
Right.
Yeah.
To get it done.
Yeah, and I had we had a quotation from St. Thomas More, so I thought a nice way to reflect what the Pope was saying would be to show the boy in church and then to have the stained glass window with St. Thomas More.
A little bit more about the book, Anne, because it really is fascinating. And I know when people see illustrations and they see it seems to be cartoon-like in its drawings, but it appeals, as we mentioned not too long ago, to a wide audience, not just children, but adults too, because it deals with such real issues. It asks the question, what kind of person would you like to be? That's tough. I'm not even sure if I figured that out yet. How do you address that in the book?
Yeah, that was a question that Pope Benedict asked the children, and he does that very often. He asks questions, and I think to be provocative, and he mentions that we look up to people, and do we want to be like the sports heroes or the I don't know, successful business people. What is it
Which
that
tends to be the role models these days.
those are the role models, and he's showing us how if we use the saints as role models, you know, we'll find a much deeper happiness, true happiness.
Coming up next, Bill Clinton's bizarre prediction as Currents continues after the break. Bill Clinton, he's a Christian, but when he spoke last night to a health conference in California, he seemed to forget about the Gospels as he described a future for his wife.
I tell her that, you know, she's still got time to have 3 more husbands after me. So I think she'll live to be 120. And I always know that she's thinking about that whenever I am stubborn about something in her constant quest at my self-improvement. She refers to me as her first husband.
Now, we think he was kidding, and he did mention that Hillary is recovering from her recent health problems. Well, the problem of who's going to give the benediction at next week's inauguration has been solved. The president has picked the Reverend Luis Leon. He's the pastor of the Episcopalian Church right across the street from the White House. Well, the inauguration is next Monday. Actually, a private ceremony will occur on Sunday, but the big festivities are set for January 21st. Preparations have long been underway at the Capitol and around the country. In Indiana, the students of the Horse Troop are excited and getting ready.
In they come and round they go as students practice at the Vaughn Equestrian Center.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
For these students, carrying the nation's colors in the 57th inaugural parade will be a first. But for Culver Academies, it's a centennial celebration.
Well, in 1913, the Black Horse Troop was an escort in Washington, D.C.
Now Lynn Rash and Mark Weller are getting this next generation of riders ready for their round trip.
I'm really looking forward to actually marching down and seeing the president. That'll be fun.
The school first selected the group of 59 boys from the Black Horse Troop and 24 girls from the equestrians for the honor. Then they prepared.
It's been almost every week practicing with our horses, getting them used to the sounds.
They waited and waited for the official news.
I was at home with my parents and I got an email from Dean Rash saying that we were invited.
I was like, guys, we were invited. We all kind of went up and cheers.
Now, Peter Forsch and his partner.
This is Malika. I actually just began riding her right before Thanksgiving.
Along with Eleanor Logue and Frosty.
Frosty is a good old man.
Are all getting the chance of a lifetime.
You can't help but well up when you see those kids in formation carrying those United States flags going past the box with the President and the First Lady.
As Logue practices primping the horses, she can't help but think it's been one busy year.
It's been crazy because of applying to colleges. And then also the equestrians are going to the inaugural.
And they just can't wait for the experience.
To have this honor is something I could never have dreamed of before I came here.
And thank you for joining us. And we leave you tonight with more of those fine riders of the Horse Troop. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.